What's the funniest way a customer exposed their own scam at the counter? Working in customer service for 7 years taught me many things, but nothing tested my patience quite like the stretch I spent at a so-called high-end bowling alley in our mid-sized town. The place had sleek lanes, trendy lighting, an overpriced menu, and a steady stream of guests who believed that stepping into a bowling alley somehow made them royalty. Most of the time, I learned to let their attitude wash over me and stick to the job, but every so often, someone walked in determined to stretch the rules until they snapped. At our alley, customers didn't pay per game, they paid by time. 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever they wanted. When I activated a lane, they automatically got their purchase time plus a 5-minute buffer. We also had the discretion to add 15 minutes at no charge if a mechanical delay happened, or if a group was deep enough into a game that cutting them off would cause unnecessary frustration. 99% of the time, this system worked. The other 1%, well, that's why this story exists. One afternoon, a family walked in, a dad named Tim, his wife, and 2 young daughters. I recognized Tim instantly. He bowled in one of our leagues, the kind of guy who rolled around a scuffed-up bowling bag, carried balls that looked like they'd survived several decades, and strutted around like he had a personal sponsorship deal. Staff had warned us about him too. He had a habit of extracting exceptions from new employees. They opened a tab for 1 hour and headed to their lane. Everything was routine until the last few minutes of their time. Suddenly, I heard a loud crunch from across the alley. The unmistakable sound of a bowling ball hitting the sweep arm. The moving bar that clears pins before the next frame. There's a small moment where a bowler can throw too early and hit the sweep. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, the lane shuts down and throws an error code. Sure enough, the monitor flashed the code for a jammed arm, and like clockwork, Tim made his way to the counter, explaining loudly that the lane broke again. I apologized, called the mechanic, and watched the fix take about 2 minutes. Then came the request I knew was coming. We need at least 15 more minutes since we had to wait. It was his first issue of the day, so I added it. I should have known that would come back to haunt me. Shortly after, when they were well into a new game and nearing the end of their extended time, I heard the exact same sound. Another sweep impact, another jam, another slow walk to the counter. I could practically recite his lines with him. Against my better judgment, and because I still hoped it was just bad timing, I added another 15 minutes. By the third time, the same noise, the same error, the same performance, I realized this was no coincidence. He wasn't unlucky. He knew exactly how the system worked, and he was playing it like one of his league games. So I added the time, but this time I added the charge too. Our policy was clear. The first 15 minutes could be free. Everything after that followed the posted rate. Then came the 4th, charged, then the 5th, charged again. At this point, they had spent more time strolling to my counter requesting fixes than actually bowling frames. Eventually, the family decided to call it a day and walked up to close out their tab. Tim took one look at the total and froze. His brows tightened. His jaw slackened. Then he marched straight back to me and demanded to know why I had overcharged him. He talked over every sentence I tried to say and finally declared his need for a manager. My manager, Dave, came out, already familiar with this man's reputation. Tim wasted no time delivering a dramatic story about frequent lane breakdowns, faulty equipment, and my supposed inability to run a counter. When he finished, I calmly explained the timeline, the warnings posted at the front, and the fact that I had already given him more free time than policy allowed. Dave asked for the tab, read through it quietly, and nodded. Then, in a twist that even surprised me, he added another 15-minute charge, the second free block I had originally given Tim, because it technically didn't qualify under policy either. Dave didn't raise his voice or argue. He simply pointed to the printed rules the family agreed to at check-in and stated the final total. Tim sputtered, muttered, and promised loudly that we would never see him again. His family followed him out as he rolled his bowling bag behind him with a dramatic flair worthy of a stage exit. 3 days later, he returned for league night like nothing had happened. He wasn't confused. He wasn't unlucky. He just didn't like being told that the same rules everyone else followed also applied to him.